They're two happy women bringing you inspiring stories, politics, pop culture, and lifestyle hacks, all with an eye to making our communities and our country a better place to live. It's the Happy Women Podcast with your hosts, Jen Horn and Katie Gorka.
Thanks for joining us and welcome to another episode of the Happy Women Podcast. We are so happy to have you. I'm Jennifer Horn.
And I'm Katie Gorka.
And gosh, it is already that time. I can't believe we're here. But we're in the middle of June as we sit together, and this is Father's Day season. And even though we are the happy women, I think, Katie, what I love about you is just because we're happy women and we love talking about incredible women who inspire us, that doesn't mean we leave out the men. And I think because it is Father's Day season, today's a great day to pay tribute not only to our dads, but to all dads out there.
I love that. I had a super special dad, and you and I have had very different experiences. Although, no, I shouldn't say that. We share the experience that both of our parents got divorced. Mm-hmm. How old were you when yours got divorced?
Oh, let me lay on my therapist couch because my parents did something really strange. They split up for the first time when I was in kindergarten, and then they got back together when I was in first grade. And then they split up again when I was in second grade. That was tough. It's really weird how your brain, it wasn't like it was like fully dramatic, but that was just really hard to have twice, to have him go twice. And my dad moved out of the house. But they didn't officially divorce till I was 15. They just were separated. Wow. But my dad was thinking about getting remarried. And so they got divorced finally when I was 15. So we have kind of like a crazy, talk to Dr. Phil kind of family. But how old were you when your parents split up?
So mine separated when I was 9 and they got divorced when I was 10. And I got to tell you, it was just devastating. Because there was no sign of it coming. I come from this very waspy kind of emotionally repressed family that doesn't talk about its emotions. So it's not like I'd seen fighting or anything that gave me a heads up that this was coming. And I honestly think that made it harder. But I was absolutely crushed and heartbroken. And I spent years, we unfortunately moved away from the town where he was. And I think that's a whole nother story, when kids get sort of taken away from the dad, I think is a very big issue. But I spent years wearing the tag unaccompanied child to go visit my
back
dad,
and forth.
And then I can also list for you all the airports where I basically cried my eyes out because I was going back home and leaving my dad behind. So it was a very, it's a sad thing for me. And then on top of all of that, he got colon cancer at the age of 64 and he died. So I lost him very young, which is
too young.
Yeah, too young. Absolutely.
Were you ever in a position that you lived near him at any point in life before he passed?
Nope.
So it was always a travel. Interesting. My dad, I was very lucky because my parents always stayed close and they did extraordinary things to keep me close to both of them. I'm an only child. So having my parents around and solid was really important for me. But I will say that the entire reason I'm talking to you today is probably because my parents got divorced. I really don't think it's funny how life takes you on these strange paths. And I was devastated when they split up, and I was devastated. And this is probably also not in the parenting manual, when they came to me when I was like 6 and said, "Who do you want to live with?" And I was like, "Oh, great. Oh, great." What not to do, parents. Don't ask your kid that. Make the decisions for them. But I just said, I'm going to stay. I don't want to choose between my parents. I'm going to stay with whoever keeps the house. I just wanted to stay in my bedroom because I didn't want to have to make a choice. But they lived close to each other, and I'm so grateful for that. My dad was in the process of starting a business that I still help him run today. And as he was doing that, he was spending a ton of time at work. And the reason I say that I am who I am today and I am where I am today is because to spend time with my dad, because I did live with my mom and he was working a lot, I, from a young age, started working for him. I can remember on summer vacations, spending summers working in the office, learning all kinds of stuff. I mean, by the time I was 15, I was ordering music from record companies, because at that time we were not a talk radio station. We were a music station. I taught myself how to do payroll and how to do accounts receivable for his company. I mean, I was doing a lot of these things simply because I was like this little like baby growing up in the business, right? And I just sucked in everything, running his front office, all this stuff during summer vacation. And I never thought I wanted to be on air, but it was because of the time there kind of developing my skills. I think I learned more during that part than I did during my entire time at college, just because I picked up so many skills as a kid. And then finally, one day he kind of challenged me and put me in front of a microphone, and he was always on the air. And I know that's why I am where I am today. If not, I was thinking I was going to be a teacher, I was going to be a therapist, or I was going to be 12 million different things, but never in radio. And so I think because of that divorce, it pushed me down the path that I was definitely supposed to be in. So I give credit to that.
And you still get to work with him, right?
Every single day. Yeah. It's a really interesting thing. I'm still very close to my parents, and I consider them to be amongst my best friends now that I'm older. I don't necessarily condone like becoming best friends with your young kids, but when everybody's an adult, it is such a nice friendship. And I know you do that with your kids too, that you kind of create this really special relationship with your kids. And I think it just means the world. I love the fact that we're still so involved with one another. I would never want to give that up. So I will tell you, though, that I have an absolutely great dad, a dad that made me cringe as a kid. He used to embarrass me because he would tell funny jokes, and he was a little loud, and I was very shy. But he always taught me to be bold, and he taught me to be a great friend. He was such a loyal person. My dad's the kind of guy that when someone loses a job or when someone he's always the guy that checks in on that person, no matter what. So my dad was always the guy who would just be loyal and check in on people. And he taught me to be a loyal friend, to stay true to yourself, and to always, I don't know, just be there for people. That's always kind of the MO of my dad. My mom's very sensitive like that too, but my dad is just, loyalty is key. And I think he's really impressed that, to be a hard worker and to be loyal and to get up every day and to get to work and to really never stop. And that's what he did every day to keep our small business going. And he still does it now. I think retiring is a foreign concept for him, but he's taught me so many incredible things. But I need to hear more about your dad, Katie, because I know you had this incredible relationship with him. What were some of the lessons? What did he teach you? How did he imprint on you?
Yeah, I love that. I love that thought that you're reflecting on what your dad taught you, because I haven't thought about it that much. But I think for me, a lot of it was also hard work and a lot on integrity. So my dad also ran a small business. He was actually the sixth generation to run a family business that had started in New York City. By the time he was the president, he moved it up to Pennsylvania, and they made rolling steel doors and grills. And it was not a big company, but he took it, he ran it well. My brother then took it on and grew it even more. But I remember here's one funny little story. I remember, he took me up there maybe on a Saturday to the plant, right? To see it, to visit the
plant.
factory.
I love it.
Yeah. To visit the factory. And, in the offices, so a lot of this was, big manufacturing area, but then they had the offices, and he took me to the, how would you call this? Like the office supply closet, which.
Okay. Oh, I love that place.
I know. I thought
Pens, notepads,
exactly.
I'm in.
It was a treasure trove. And I was ready to start filling my Halloween bag. And he said, you can take one pencil.
Oh, no.
But he's like, he's belonged to the company, so you can take one pencil. That's my dad. And then another thing was, and I don't remember how old I was, but he said, you never, ever cheat on your taxes. He said, it is your duty.
Such good advice.
Yeah. And it's your duty as a citizen to pay your taxes. And so those are some of the ones that I remember. But, I have to
complain, by the way, we can complain about our taxes, but we don't cheat.
We can help people get in office who will lower our taxes.
Yes.
How about that? But I have to say, because it was such a loss, and I will say his colon cancer, he suffered a lot. It was a very, very, very tough way to die. But I will also say there was a lot of grace in it. I actually really think that he came to believe in those last weeks and months of his life. I think he kind of felt our love for him in a new way, because it's hard on dads as well. If it's as hard on dads as it is on the kids when they get separated, right? Imagine a man, he had 4 kids, 4 young kids that, suddenly now he's on his own. So it was a loss for him as well. But I have to say, I feel a lot of divine justice in the man I got to marry, because I think he's an incredible dad. And it has been it sort of made up for losing my own dad so early, watching Sebastian as a father. He was so engaged with our kids and continues to be. And I think it's such an interesting time. You were talking about being friends with your dad. I love seeing how our relationship with our kids, who are now 25 and 27, how our friendship with them evolves. And I will say, I think in some respects, this has almost been the hardest phase, because thankfully our kids never went through any really bad phases of I hate you, Mom, don't talk to me.
I remind my parents all the time that they were lucky. I really stayed out of trouble and I never gave them all that stuff. And it seems like your kids were pretty good too.
Yeah, no, they were great. But I think what's interesting is as you get to adulthood and they want the relationship to evolve and change, and that means it's on you to evolve and change, which, I'm sorry, but as you get older, you're more entrenched in who you are. I think change at this age is difficult. And my kids have really demanded of me, I think, being more present to them emotionally, being more open to difficult conversations than I have been comfortable with. But I'm so grateful for being pushed in that way. Okay, enough of the serious stuff. Let's talk gifts. Where do you stand on Father's Day gifts? Are you a gift giver?
Oh my gosh, am I a gift giver? Who are you talking to? I'm like Mary Poppins over here. Yes. First of all, and probably to my detriment, because sometimes I go a little wild, but when I love people, and I know, look, you can show people that you love them in a million different ways. I'm not talking about big extravagant gifts, but as I've gotten older and I have, I have my own income and I can do these things. I love to create excursions. I love to create memory makers for my family. And so I really challenge myself to try to come up with fun things to do when I do gift giving. So sometimes I'll do a gift. And believe me, if you're my dad is the hardest guy on the planet to vie for, because he has everything. And the only things he doesn't have, it's bring out 75 grand or something. I mean, the guy, because he loves electronics and he loves TVs. So if you get him a flashlight, he's going to love you. If you get him a gadget, he's going to love you. He loves anything to do with the television. One year I got him an outdoor projector so we could watch movies in his backyard, which was really fun.
I love that.
There's been all kinds of stuff, but this year I'm going to be honest and tell you one thing that I got him. He's going to kill me. He listens to everything we do. He's such a supporter of mine. I got him Nutrafol for men.
Wait, what? I don't even know what that is.
But for hair growth, because he was feeling a little insecure, even though he's got a very full head of hair for a man his age. So it's like a hair growing supplement for men that's supposed to actually be really good. They have one for women too, a Nutrafol for women.
Oh, that's funny.
So he's going to kill me for that. But typically we do excursions.
Or is he going to kill you for talking about it on radio?
He's going to kill me for talking into a microphone about that. But I love you, Daddy, and I'm sorry for embarrassing you. But yes, that's this year's gift. But he's also getting concert tickets. He loves country music. I love country music. So we'll do that. In the past, we've done spring training for different holidays. We might do little jaunts, little places. I might say, oh, let's, get a few friends together. We'll go and do, XYZ. We'll go up to Santa Barbara or just do something. I'm really big into excursions rather than gifts. How about you? What are you going to get for Seb? And hopefully he won't listen to this. Or what are the kids going to get? Or do you get, actually, that's another great question. Do you get a Father's Day gift for him? Or do you just let your kids do it now that they're older?
Yeah, no, I would let the kids do it. But I love the idea of doing an excursion. I think that's super fun and super special. And I think we've moved in that direction a lot. As you get to a certain age, you don't want more stuff. Not even hair growth supplements.
He is going to kill me. Oh my God, I'm so dead.
But I made the big mistake for many years in my relationship with Sebastian. Now, this is not the same as giving gifts to my father, but I will just say, I used to give him clothes and thinking that that was a really fun gift. And eventually at some point he said to me that he thought that I was always giving him clothes so that he would dress in a way that fit in with my family, which I thought was so sad. So we steer away from clothes. We try to do.
Yeah. You know what it is? I think so. Here's what's interesting is I think women love the gift of clothes.
Yeah.
Maybe not from men.
Not
we
that
love to get each other clothes.
Out, though. Right.
Yeah. No. Like I give my friends clothes all the time. They give me clothes. Like that's great. But I think for men look at clothes as a utility, as a necessity, and not something fun. I think like women do.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I will say who I think is one of the best gift givers, and this is our daughter. So I will say this, like for our family Christmas present, she got us tickets to go see Macbeth with Ralph Fiennes. It was
so fun.
Incredible. So I'm really excited to see what she gives her father for Father's Day. And I hope that I'm in on the gift.
That's always good. I'm telling you cannot go wrong with excursions. And it doesn't even have to be all that expensive. A few years, like we went to a Dodger game because he loves these kind of things. And when you share the memory, it's so much better than just one more thing that's going to sit around and collect us. Now, of course you can get, one year I got him and it's still so funny because he wears it like he loves a flashlight, as I mentioned. So he had the hat with the flashlight built into it. So he can like be a coal miner in the backyard and do his work and work on his drip system and all of the stuff that he does. Those little things are fun, but it's all about making the memories at this point, I think. All right. So you're letting your kids decide. You're hoping your daughter scores and that you get in on a good excursion. What makes a great dad, Katie? What do you think?
I think number one, just being present, being in your child's life. That's an obvious one. I think knowing how to be affectionate, knowing how to be loving, how to be open. And I will say, I think that's where my dad was most challenged. He was not an emotionally accessible person. He was incredibly kind, but not in any way emotionally accessible, could not have hard conversations. And so I'm still trying to learn how. But the other thing that I came to feel though, that was really important, and I think I felt this more when I became a parent myself, was that I think fathers, and probably both parents who love their child enough to draw boundaries, I think is a real gift to your child. To draw boundaries in a loving way and not in a shaming way, but to be able to sort of make clear there are rules. The rules are for your good and for your safety. And if you cross the line or break the rule, there will be consequences. So I don't know. Those are the ones that come to my mind. Do you see it totally differently?
No, actually, I think it's interesting about the boundaries because I wouldn't have thought about that. I think that's absolutely important. But I think the first thing is just being present and being actively present. I think there are plenty of parents who, just kind of show up to things, but maybe now they're on their cell phone or they're, on a phone call, or being an active participant in your kid's life, I think is hugely important. And I was blessed because even with the divorce and all that craziness, my parents showed up to the things that I did, to my graduations. They made it. And that was hugely important. And I think also, being your kid's fan, I think has been really important to me. I think kind of, especially when it's dads and daughters, like you had a really important relationship with your dad. I think there was something to Freud. I don't know what, but I think moms and son, or fathers and son, father, daughter, mother, son, there's a big component of developing who we will be in our future relationships that we gain from those relationships with our parents. So I think to have integrity, to show love, to give yourself a piece of self-confidence so that you can go and have a really important adulthood, I think all gets developed in those relationships. I know I found that from my dad, and a sense of security, for sure. But yeah, I think rules, and more important than rules to me would be just showing me by example what's right and what's wrong. And showing good through example, I think, is huge for parents, because you can't tell your kid not to do these things if you're out doing the things you're telling them not to do. So I'm always appreciative that my parents taught me how to be a good human by actually walking the walk. So
I would say one of the difficulties with my dad was that he never understood really what it was that I wanted to do. And it was actually true for both me and my sister. So she became an actress. I wanted to be a writer. He thought she should go to secretarial school. He told me that trying to be a poet, this is what I wanted to do. He said, trying to be a poet is like trying to be a professional golfer. Only about 10 people in the world are going to actually make any money at it. So I always had to kind of push back against that. And I think I appreciate in Sebastian that he has been fully supportive of the paths that both of our children chose. I really think you have to, I mean, I get that you want your kid to be self-supporting, but I think it's also important to support them, even if it's,
and you got to chase your dream.
Alien. Yeah,
that's right. Because if you chase your dream, or if you don't chase your dream, you live to regret it. And that causes nothing but trouble. And that's hostility that builds up, I think, inside of you, that shows itself in all different places in your life. So I think you're right. You gotta help your kids find their dream and maybe know how to realistically get there too, or use it somehow to catapult themselves somewhere else.
Yeah.
I like it.
So
I just say big applause to all the dads out there that we appreciate, because you know what? You are absolutely, moms get a lot of attention, but dads, you're the structure, and definitely an important piece of the pie.
So important. So now, do you remember a couple of weeks ago, I told you that a good friend of ours, Konstantin Kisin, who is a podcaster from the UK, he came by and visited us. And he had just come off of doing, I think, 9 days on tour with Jordan Peterson. Yeah. So Sebastian and I always enjoy listening to Jordan Peterson, but I wouldn't say that we were really on the Jordan Peterson train, right? Like I'm not, I didn't.
He has his hardcores for sure, but you guys are,
But I was really persuaded by what Constantine said about him, and then also Constantine's engineer. So Constantine has a podcast himself, very, very successful, called Trigonometry, which I really enjoy. Yeah, it's great.
Very clever.
So his engineer is an 18-year-old guy who's been working for them since he was 16. And he's really keen on Jordan Peterson and kind of was explaining to me, what is it about Peterson that appeals to him? Mm-hmm. Okay, so Constantine has this very successful podcast in the UK called Trigonometry, and he was staying with us. And his 18-year-old engineer was staying with us. And the engineer kind of explained to me what was the appeal for him of Jordan Peterson. And he said Jordan Peterson had actually been really instrumental in getting him to decide to go ahead and move away from home and kind of get his own apartment and get a little bit more responsible. And I think that was a big thing of Jordan Peterson's sort of early phase. Now he's doing something else, which I think really gets more into his own faith journey that both he and his wife have been on. You might have heard that she, I think, recently converted and became a Catholic. Yeah. So this tour is called Who Converse With God tour. And he spoke here in Washington, D.C. last night. Constantine was good enough to get us tickets. And I have to say, I am a fan. I loved the talk. He's a bit of a, how to say this? He's a rambler. But he is just, I think, an utterly captivating storyteller. I mean, I love the world of ideas anyway. So I have to say, honestly, I found it far more entertaining than theater or.
Really?
Yeah, I really did. I think because he is an utterly captivating storyteller. Okay, well, part of why I like it better than theater is because practically all the theater I've seen lately, wasn't true of Macbeth, but everything else that I've seen has been so woke, and I am so sick of getting beat over the head with its stupid politics. Jordan Peterson is conservative. And so I think politically, I just find it much more palatable, but also it's so just so fascinating. The way he kind of weaves together the threads of Western civilization, but he talks about faith issues, but it's also got the psychology dimension. So, he did this incredible job of telling the stories of Jonah, Elijah, and Moses. But it's really not just about God and faith, but it's also about what's going on in our own sort of soul and our own psyche. And it was a very bold call to people to stop being afraid and to speak up and speak out.
Yes.
It was a real call. It was a real call politically for people to speak out. And I thought that was just beautiful. I loved it.
And that's the message of the time right now too, right? It's no more letting them paint you in a certain way. I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time. Don't let other people define you. We have to be brave enough to tell people who we are. And so that's incredible. I like that. Is he going all across the country? What's his tour like?
Yes, I haven't looked at future dates or anything, so I don't know what else is, where else is coming. But if you get the opportunity, I definitely recommend going. I think you'd love it. There were so many good things. Oh my gosh, his take on the environmentalists, it was great. I'll just say that. And apparently he's also got a new book with the same title coming out in November. So, I get his appeal, I do.
And give me the name of the tour again. The name of it.
We Who Converse with God.
We Who Converse with God. Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
And I think it was also great because it made me hear the stories that we're so familiar with, but the stories of Jonah and Elijah and Moses made me hear them in an entirely new way.
Which is always nice.
He's a very gifted storyteller. Absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, there's an idea for Father's Day. If you're listening, right? Take dad to see Jordan Peterson, maybe, or take your husband to see Jordan Peterson. I like that.
Because there's
special
certainly
dad in your
nothing
life
to see in the movie theaters.
Oh man, you're not kidding. I've been feeling a little, and I know we're going to do an episode about this, but I've been feeling a little like a blank space in my media consumption these days. So we may have to do a little research and try to figure something out. All right. Before we wrap today on our Father's Day episode, I made a note that you wanted to talk about what churches are doing to getting fathers engaged and back in the home again. I think you'd said you wanted to talk about rebuilding fathers and getting the church involved with that.
So yes, and it's not the church itself that's doing it. So when I was at the Heritage Foundation, right, and that's how I got to know Tina Deskovich and did all the great work with parents and different groups. And two groups that I came across that I just think are doing incredible work. One is called Charge USA. It's based in Minnesota, but it's really a nationwide program. It was created by a black man named Kendall Qualls, who really had on his heart the problems with the Black family and encouraging Black men to step up and really fulfill their role as parents. Mm-hmm. And I just love what he's done. He's done some incredible short films. One of the things that's really heartbreaking, and it was something that I had not thought about, is if you think about men, and Black men are incarcerated at a higher rate. They go into prison, many of them, because they did not have fathers in their own lives. Then they come out eventually, and they don't have fatherhood was not modeled for them. How do they go on to become healthy fathers to their own children? And so that's one of the things that Take Charge USA works on. And so I think that's so important. The other group that I really love is a group called Communio. And this works in both Black and white churches. And what they came to recognize, and this is so fascinating, they came to recognize that the decline in the family runs exactly parallel to the decline in church attendance. So if you it's absolutely, they go on the same track. So if you started about 1960, which is about when things started going downhill, they just move on a parallel track. And one of the things that they also realized is they talked about all the incredible support that churches provide, like to youth ministry and, all these various things. But honestly, our churches do not do a lot for supporting marriages and supporting healthy marriages. So they developed a program they work through churches. And the idea is to work with couples to try to keep them strong, to try to keep the family together. So I love that.
I love that.
Yeah, I think it's very important.
Plus, it's a really nice way to get a little extra help. At my church, I'm Catholic as well. They always do a ladies' retreat, a men's retreat. Right now, there's a new program that I think is incredible. And I've actually been doing it once a month, where they're trying to bring people in their 30s and their 40s back to church, because a lot of people fall off as they're starting out in having families. And, there's just a million things going on. And sometimes that's what it slips through the cracks. And so they've been bringing in different speakers and such to try to bring younger people back to the church. But you never hear about a couples retreat or about a couples group. That's really interesting and such a huge part. And I think even a safer space than for couples who might just need a little bit of work, maybe, but don't feel like they want to actually commit or feel the stigma of actually couples therapy, right? It might be nice to get that support through the church. I like that. All right. Well, that's it for us. Happy Women podcast episode number, I don't even know where we are anymore. Number, what, 12, 14? You're just shaking your head. You're like, I don't know what number we're on.
I lost track. I don't know. We've done so many.
We're in the books though. So happy Father's Day. First of all, I know we've done so many. We've got to start counting them on a wall in our studio or something. We're in double digits, baby. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Happy Father's Day to all of you from us here at Happy Women. And want to remind you of a few things. Number one, check Katie out online. She's got her website up and running, katiegorka.org. You can get her book as well. It's called Next Gen Marxism, wherever you get your books. It's fabulous. That's a great Father's Day gift idea as well. And you can follow me, Jennifer Horn Radio, on Facebook and Instagram, Jennifer Horn on Truth, and on X, formerly Twitter. And we thank you so much. Please share this podcast with your friends. Give us a 5-star review. We always love those. And make sure, if you haven't yet, to subscribe. Happy Women, wherever you get your podcasts. You can get more information at the SalemPodcastNetwork.com. Thanks for joining us today. We are the Happy Women Podcast.